Rapids. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to episode 366 of Picks and Ponies on the HHH Racing Podcast Network. In case you don't recognize me, I'm your host for tonight, Pete Visco. I am filling in for Howard Kravitz, who may pop in later. We're not sure yet, but he has been spending all day handicapping on the feed, the live feed at Hawthorne, helping out with some absences there. So hopefully you checked him out there, or I don't know if they're still going. I think they wrapped up by now, or at least are close to, but check it out on replay. I think they post those to YouTube, so check out Howard there. But welcome. Tonight, we're going to be talking about, I was going to say the late Pick-5 races at Saratoga on Saturday, but now some races on Saturday, some races on Sunday. We're going to bounce around a little bit. We're going to talk through the schedule to make sure everybody knows what's going on. Paul will fill everybody in since he's Mr. Saratoga. So we'll get to that in a minute. And then at the end, we will have a small rant from Paul, like he likes to do. So before that, let's do some of the administrative items. As you can see scrolling on the bottom of the screen, please check us out on YouTube, subscribe, rate, review, hit the notification bell so you know when our shows pop up. Definitely subscribe so we'll be in your feed. You could tell YouTube that you like this podcast. And we are trying to get as many do the notifications because we have our Saratoga Today shows. So we have other shows now, so you don't want to miss any. So anytime we have a show that's not on our normal schedule, if you hit the notification bell, then you'll know. For our audio listeners, please, the same thing. Listen, subscribe, rate, review, whether you listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, follow the HHH Racing Podcast on Twitter/X at HKravitz and on Instagram at Instagram.com HHH Racing Podcast. Plus, you can follow any of the hosts. We all put our X handles in our little signature on the screen. So please give us a follow as well. Check out our website, hhhracingpodcast.com. Tons of stuff on there, articles, photos, power picks information, everything you could think of, information about upcoming shows. So please check it out. Stuff about ownership. We've had a few horses win some races recently that some of the hosts have pieces of. You can check those out on there. There's a ton of information. Definitely go there and check it out a bit. Power picks. These are our standard regular power picks. $15.99 a month, basically $4 a week. Under the video player or on our website, you can find the link to Patreon where you can subscribe. And again, on the website, there's examples. We show our scores each week, and there's examples like the last 15. So you can see what you're getting yourself into if you're thinking of subscribing but haven't yet. Definitely check it out. Also, on our website, you can subscribe through our website only. Well, basically, it's just through PayPal. Or PayPal or Venmo, I should say. You could subscribe to our Saratoga and Del Mar only power picks. 2 individual subscriptions, completely separate from each other. You get the weekend at Saratoga, you get the weekend at Del Mar. You have to subscribe if you wanted these upcoming weekends picks. You have to subscribe by 11:59 p.m. tonight. So definitely, if you're interested in this weekend, as soon as the show is over, jump on there and subscribe. But we have individual weekend subscriptions available throughout the end of the meet. So without further ado, let me bring on my co-host for tonight from the Saratoga Special, my good friend, Paul Halloran. What's going on, my friend?
I'm dressed for Saratoga with my bucket hat.
It looks very sharp.
Whatever kind of hat.
That is a bucket hat. Yeah, it's a little. You might need a size up, maybe. But
my head's very big, Pete. It goes by the size, the number of brains you have.
Oh, okay. Then you need a huge hat with all your brain
Absolutely.
cells you have there. Let's before we go on, let's do a quick poke around and see what's going on here. See who's joining us. We have Katie. Katie's birthday is tomorrow. So happy birthday, Katie. I'm sorry that Saratoga canceled the races, so you don't get to do that. But there's plenty of other tracks for you to spend your birthday money on. Hopefully you get some, maybe you get some envelopes in the mail still, and you can blow that money on any track you want. Let's see who else we have. I was talking to Katie a bunch, so let me scroll down a bit. Before we got Terry Frank. Hey Terry, how's it going? Mike Austin. Nope, we're sticking with Saratoga. What were you going to say, Paul? You going to say anything?
I was going to say you can get Delmar on the regular power picks if you're still inclined.
Yeah. We power picks for Delmar, so we're not going to switch though. We're going to stick with Saratoga tonight. Mike Saletta, welcome and happy birthday, Katie, from him. And then who else we got? Greg McSorley, hello. Anybody else? Paul Conlon in there. We got a lot of people joining us. Great. Hey, my man Ralph Conti, Paisan, of course. We have to have that in there. So, Paul, real quick, before we get to the handicapping, we're going to talk Saratoga. I got one thing I want to bring up on the screen here. Let me do this. And here we go. Look at that. There's our normal. Oh, let me find Paul's comment and take him, or Ralph, not Paul, you're Paul. Take that off. You see Howard and Emily on the screen. Emily, frequent guest of the show as well. This is a picture of them live on air today prior to the 5th race at Hawthorne. What do you think about that? Hey, and he's got good taste in clothes, that Howard. Look at that.
Yeah. I did sneak. I snuck a little bit. I snuck a few minutes of watching. I forget which race, but
did you play any, or you just peeked in?
I did not, because as it was, I was trying to make believe I was doing my real job, Pete. And of course, boy. I did have Saratoga on during that make believe time.
We always work during the day, Paul. We always work during the day. Don't let anybody tell you different. Oh, there's Katie again. I was trying to put this one up. Hey, Tanner. All right, we'll take that one off the screen. Let's get into the handicapping. What do you think? Let's start it up. So,
yeah, we should tell people what's going on, Pete, to start.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you to do that. So why don't you give everybody the lowdown on the schedule and when everything's running and what's happening?
All right, so tomorrow, I'm sure everyone who watches us follows racing. They know by now Saratoga is outright canceled tomorrow. And, we'll talk about that later, but, none of us like it. But if we had to wait till 11 o'clock tomorrow to find out, or worse, if we had 5 4-horse fields coming at us tomorrow, we wouldn't like that either. So the forecast, you and I were talking, Pete, before we came on the air. Colonial has moved races. Laurel, I think, is canceled tomorrow. The Eastern Seaboard is really a mess. And if you don't believe me, go to an airport and try to fly somewhere, and good luck. So tomorrow's canceled. So the Saturday card, you will note in your PPs, has 12 races. It'll now be down to 10. Race 6, the Saratoga Derby, and race 10, the feature, the Fourstar Dave, where I spend my time in Saratoga, the Fourstar Dave Sports Bar.
Me too.
The Fourstar Dave and the Saratoga Derby, which Saratoga Derby's now been moved twice. They will be run on Sunday. They will be the last 2 races on Sunday. They will not be part of any multi-race wagers. And that's because we didn't know they were going to be on Sunday until now. So it was a contingency. So those races will be 11 and 12, I believe, on Sunday, Pete.
Yep.
So Saturday, you'll have 10. Now, there are 4 other turf races on Saturday that I would say almost certainly will be taken off the turf. You asked me about the Troy. Why wasn't that moved? I don't have a good answer. I do know that the Cogburn people are considering staying in if it moves to the dirt. So
yeah, that was a question.
You got a 10 race card Saturday. It'll go 1 through 5, 7, 8, 9, and 11, 12. Is that 7, 8, 9? No, 7, 8, 9, and 11, 12. So you'll have a little extra time Saturday after the 5th and after the 9th.
Did you say this already for Saturday? Are they doing? You might have said this and I spaced out. Are they doing a late Pick-5? Do you know?
I would think they are, Pete. I think what happened last Saturday, Howard and I were talking about it Monday. Although I don't know what the explanation that I saw was that when races are canceled that are part of multi-race horizontal sequences, the sequence is canceled. So that is a good question.
Yeah. But I don't know if you have
So,
enough advance time if you could change that or
right.
not. But I guess
The
everybody
issue,
just peek at it. Yeah.
yeah, certainly the issue last Saturday was betting had already started on the card,
Yeah.
and that was just, and some people put it in early, so that was just not doable. So we will have to try to get an answer to that on what's going to happen. We certainly will know by tomorrow. But so that's the deal. And look, I'm looking outside at rain, Pete. You will be looking outside at rain at some point. I'm sure a lot of the people watching us, it is what it is, and we just got to hope it goes away before I get back up there for the Travis, because it is all about me, Pete.
I mean, nobody else cares about anything else. We just want it to be clear for you. That's what you could still wear the bucket hat, though, I think. Still bring the bucket hat. I think it's going to be your new look. I really like it. I think it's the new look.
Parks,
all right. Well,
Parks Racing.
Park. We love Parks here. All right. Let's just get into it now. And all right. So we're just gonna go in order of the races we were gonna go, and like I said, we'll mention each one and who's scratched and who's gonna what day they're gonna go on. Excuse me. So we're starting race 6, the Saratoga Derby. As Paul mentioned, this will be on Sunday now. $600,000 purse, 1.1 miles on the turf. Right now, there was a field of 8, but as we noted earlier, I saw on Twitter, First World War, I read, was going to wait until Kentucky Downs, and Tricari is going to Colonial, so we should have a field of 6 at least. That's the same thing you saw, right, Paul? I guess that's what we'll go with that today. We're going to use that information to base our picks on. All right, so let's get into it, and we are going with, so race 6, you and I are both going with the 1. Oh, am I not on? I'm not on race 6. I was like, we don't have Whitty.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not the right race. All right, we're both going with the 1, Legend of Time. I'll let you go first. What do you like about Legend of Time? And I assume he's going to be now, you would think, a pretty sizable favorite, don't you think?
I do, and I do. I think this horse was kind of up against it. Had the race been run last Saturday on schedule?
I liked White Palomino. Was that the race at White Palomino last week? I think so, because I thought there was maybe the speed was going to get away in that race.
Yeah, I don't know. I watched Diego Velasquez train 2 mornings in a row.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And I would say he was going to take a lot of beating. That was one of the real casualties. We talked about it Monday night. That was one of the first questions I had. When they canceled that race on Saturday. Well, they canceled the 2 races, but specifically that one. In other times, Pete, you would have been wondering about the Applebee's, but of course Charlie has like 18 horses stabled at Saratoga right now, so they just had to walk back over to Green Tree. But I was able to speak with Aiden O'Brien last Saturday afternoon after the cancellation, and he said they were going to take Diego Velasquez home. One of the reasons was they weren't going to be able to train on turf up there on Sunday. Yep. So basically, and he wouldn't have trained on Saturday because he was running Saturday. So, at least a couple of days off the track, no turf training. So they just started over. So to answer your question, I think with him out, and I thought, Pete, First World War was going to be very playable in this race with your other Paisan, Lanfranco. So you take them out. I mean, Deterministic is a little interesting. The Clermont horse who looked to be on the Derby trail and then laid an egg in the wood and followed it up with another egg in the Peter Pan. So they went to the turf and ran pretty respectably. And Neat ran huge last Friday.
I really like that horse. Neat. I really like him.
So, but I do think you take Diego Velasquez out. You take First World War out. I think Legend of Time becomes pretty formidable. Won the Pennine Ridge, in which St. James the Great ran, by the way.
Yes.
And and the other, the horse that's beaten him twice is Trickery, and you take that horse is going to Colonial. So
that was actually my top pick in the race. So I was a little disappointed that he came out.
And Carson's Run is another horse who under the right setup for Clement. Really wants to come from behind. Of course, that's the horse named for a young man, 31-year-old Carson Yost, who has Wolf Hirschhorn syndrome, the same syndrome as our good friend, the late great Cody Dorman had.
Yep.
Carson's father was a West Point classmate of Terry Finley of West Point Thoroughbreds. So, that's a horse under the right circumstances, Pete. But I just think between who's out and, should be a good trip from in there.
Yeah,
you get Pratt.
What do you think, pace? Because I assume we looked at I poured it up earlier. So on the time form, now Izzy Dioro should be the clear leader, but
Yes.
I'm not sure that's a horse that they can't run down. Whereas I think if a horse like Trickery was up closer, it would have been maybe a little bit more difficult. But I assume that Legend of Time, Carson's run, and Legend of Time can sit close enough, I think, to attack that horse maybe on the turn and get to Izzy Dioro early. Is that sort of how you see it going?
Yeah, it looks to me, Pete, with the way the race flow now, is that Legend of Time, I think, pretty clearly comes around second, which I think is what you just said.
Yeah, and
I mean, Deterministic is not forward. We talked about Carson's run. Fulmineo is a closer.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it seems like Legend of Time gets pretty much whatever trip that Flavian wants, doesn't it, Pete?
Yeah, and he's usually okay with working out a trip. He does a decent job at getting a trip. Deterministic for me was one that I was a little scared, and I thought this last week whenever we talked about it. I thought Deterministic maybe would be a better miler. If you look at his best races, were all a mile and shorter. Now the other two, they were on dirt, so who knows if on turf he could extend a bit. But that was a little bit of my concern. But maybe that's not as much of a concern in this field because it's a small field. He's not going to have to, he won't be too far back. And if he can hold the distance, we'll see. But that was my only concern with him in terms of contending for the top spot. I mean, I know you have him in second, but do you have any concerns about that? Or do you think let's give him a shot?
Oh, I certainly think he is the second most likely winner to start with.
You do? Okay.
And
yeah.
The only concern I would have is if, for any reason, Legend of Time got caught up in some silly duel with Izzy Dioro, but my guess is that Flavian rides the race just like Izzy Dioro's not there.
Yeah,
right?
That's what I'm
Who's going to be in front of him. Now, Izzy Dioro is 1-for-1 at this distance, and, how many times have we seen, we saw a turf route today, if you watched. Luis Saez took a horse mile and 3/8 wire to wire, gate to wire.
We've seen it plenty.
But I think that's why I think, Pete, the trip on Legend of Time, if Flavian is second, he's in a position to not allow that to happen without, I think, getting caught up in some silly, I'm not looking for some really fast fraction race, especially since the turf, even on Sunday, we will guess the turf will still have some cut in it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's funny that I didn't mention on Izzy Dioro that Irad picks up the ride. So you're getting a rider upgrade there. And I assume just go to the lead, try and back it down. And like you said, Flavian is the type, he's not going to let a horse just get away that he knows that he's better than, I assume. So I think he's going to attack. Anything else on here? Are you good to move on to the next one?
No, I think we're good. I think we covered that pretty well, actually.
All right. This is an interesting one here. So we have Race 8, the Saratoga Special. This one will stay on Saturday. We got a purse of $200,000 going 6.5 furlongs on the dirt for 2-year-olds. And right now we have a field of 9. I didn't see any sort of scratches or anything, early ones for this. So we have you know what I didn't do? I didn't refresh. Oops, sorry about that. I didn't refresh them to see the odds on those. So let me do that now. So they are on the screen for everyone. I apologize. So we have a favorite. Number 5, Touchy, is our favorite, but this is a pretty wide open race. And let's see. You are going with the 5, Touchy. I am going with the 1, Smokin' Wicked. Since you are the co-host today with the mostest, I'm going to let you go first again. What do you like about Touchy here?
Pete, I went back and watched this replay today, and I thought this horse ran pretty well. it was a contested pace, and he was out wide in the stretch and then came down. I don't know if we can maybe take a look at the stretch. Well, you can see as much as you want. You see he goes to the lead here, but he did have to work somewhat to get to the lead. They went 22 flat, which is not unreasonable for 5.5. But right here, he looks, like he might be okay. But this race is almost going to fall apart a little. I mean, keep in mind, folks, the 1 wins this race. Now try to find the 1 on your screen right now. So right here, he's way out wide, and he's going to take a left at some point right there.
Right there.
And I think that's to engage that other horse. I think the jock wanted to make sure he knew he had competition, and now he's in a duel, and they're doing all the running, and then coming down the middle of the track is Studley, an excellently named horse, Studley Do-Right. Maybe it is a relation to Dudley Do-Right. And I just thought that was a pretty good effort. The 7 didn't go the lead, had to work to get the lead. Then once he opened up, took a left to engage that horse, and then that horse came back on him. So now he's in a battle, and that's what he thinks he's got to beat that horse. And the 7, the 1 just comes running down the middle of the racetrack. So I thought that was a pretty good effort, and I think this is a fairly open race, but that's where I landed.
Yeah, and Studley Do-Right and the horse, if you can see on the screen, 3 Echoes, they came back and ran 2-3 in the Sanford. So that race has been flattered. And then Touchy, since that race, has had some really nice works. I mean, you see here just banging out 59 and 3, 59 and 3, 59 and 2, then a nice 1:02 here. So looks to be really holding that form, looks to be sharp. Oh, by the way, let me just mention this. Katie, yes, we did skip race 7. We only did race 6 because it was graded stakes, and then we were going to do the late Pick-5, but we're just going to stick with the last 5 races, so we will not be covering the 7th. But yeah, I don't think there's any arguments against this horse. I think there was enough there. What do you think about the blinkers off? Do you think maybe they're going to try and rate the horse a bit, and maybe he got a little too anxious last time and maybe jumped to that lead a little too quick? Or do you just think, hey, let's try some, Wesley's just trying some things out?
That's an excellent question by you, Pete. You are a great host.
I'm trying, man.
The other guy, the other guy will be lucky he can get back in this thing. I will say this, Pete, and I just noticed this. I did a fairly in-depth feature on Joel Rosario for the Hall of Fame last Friday.
That was fantastic, by the way.
Thank you. And one of the telling quotes that I had from his agent, Ron Anderson, was that I think he said Baffert, some trainer, either Baffert or Sadler, told him that the second time Joel rides a horse, whether it's from a workout to a race or from a race to a race, he really figures things out. So I'm guessing he came off and recommended to Wesley. We might want to try blinkers next time.
Or take them off. You mean take them off next time.
Take them off, right. But I don't know. He was kind of all over the place in the stretch.
Like you said, it was weird because was he trying to engage, or was that just, oh my God, this horse is just banging left all of a sudden. I don't really know what to do. It's a tough. It's their first race.
It's a good move for Wesley, Pete. 28% move for Wesley.
Yeah,
and that says to me, Pete, that he thinks this horse has plenty of speed. Obviously, we know that blinkers tend to move horses up a little bit, and of course, being by Nyquist. The stretch out by 5.5 to 6.5 is only going to help, and this horse is probably going to end up going longer at some point. So right? I think the blinkers are. I'm totally fine with that. I don't like seeing it, in a Grade 1 race where they're screwing around, but if you're ever going to do it, a maiden and second start seems like one of the most logical places to do it.
Yeah, and it's hard. Real quick, why don't we have somebody who popped up backstage? Why don't we? Hey,
what's up, guys? I don't know if you can hear me. I'm at a crowded restaurant. We're celebrating my good day at Paul Thornton had a good time with Emily Gulson, found some winners. Paul, what are you wearing? What?
I'm wearing my, it's a Saratoga themed hat. Should be ready for fishing.
Ah.
You can fishing at all times.
I like it. Well, I can barely hear you guys. Someone wants to say hi real quick. Hold on 1 second.
Matthew!
Having a killer day.
Keep drinking, Matt. Keep drinking. That's what we need. Keep drinking.
All right, we don't want to lose viewers. He's already had a few beverages. Anyway, hope you guys have a great show. We're going to enjoy a nice dinner here, and good luck with everything at Saratoga. I guess they're going to be off the service Saturday, and stake races move to Sunday. Is that correct, guys?
Yeah.
Two of the stakes moved to Sunday. Yes.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for hosting, Pete. Great job. And I look forward to hearing the show when I get home.
All right. Enjoy dinner. See ya.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye. Let's cut him off. There we go. A little pop in from.
So, Pete, you should talk about the one, because I thought the one was very playable here.
Yeah. So I'm going to. Is this one? Oh, no. Sorry. This was a Churchill race.
Pull up the replay.
So, yeah. I did watch the replay, just not through Formulator. And if you want to bitch about that for a second, but we could talk about that. This horse, it was 32-1. So wins the debut, as you can see on the screen, wins the debut at a really short price, moves to Dallas Stewart. And then in this race, it was mayhem, really. It was a really weird trip, as people could read my fancy notes up there. Broke well. Was rushed up, well, not rushed up, but broke really well and had a really nice position. But then all of a sudden just started dropping back and dropped way, way back. And I didn't know what was happening. If you're watching the race, you're going, how did this horse finish second? I don't know what's going on. And then all of a sudden just made a nice move back, closed, came home, as you can see on the screen, in 12 and change. I thought he just looked pretty good coming home. I think from the rail, hopefully, since the horse did break well and broke well in his debut, I'm thinking if the horse breaks well from the rail, can sit a nice pocket or somewhere around that pocket, mid-pack, but not too far back trip. And I think just won't leave as much to do for himself. And if he can do that, I think with the late kick he showed in that last race, I really like his chances. Do you have a concern, Paul, from a horse, though, that was 32-1 last time? Now you're getting them 9-2, or they're young and that's going to happen sometimes?
Well, I do, which is why I didn't play the Queen's MG at Saratoga Sunday, and I got that one stuck. Where.
Yeah,
she
only won by about 7.
Yeah, 44-1 to what was she? 5-2, maybe.
Yeah.
So
sometimes the horse just, you can't always go by that. I think there's times when it's a horse that just was a fluky winner, whereas a horse like this, won the debut by 7. 32-1 was just against much better. You're coming from what's it? EVD? Evangeline, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a Louisiana bred, and I don't know if they just moved the horse or there might have been a private purchase after that first race where he pretty much ran off the screen. That was a weird, that politically correct, Pete. That's a Chris Davis horse. Who's 2 for 2 now, who could be pretty good. I think he ran a 76 buyer in that race.
Yep, in the batch. Yep.
And that horse might be okay. Of course, Chris Davis, Mr. Sophie Doyle.
Out of Violence, which was the sire of Forte, out of a Candy Ride mare. That's pretty good.
I know what you mean, though, because I did watch that race, Pete, and it was, you get 12 2-year-olds, you can expect some chaos by osmosis, right? But yeah, I'll be honest, I don't love the rail for this horse in this spot, but the way he ran last time, and Dallas won a race today with a 2-year-old, and I believe he mentioned this horse in the winner's circle interview.
Oh, really?
So the rail wouldn't matter when you're looking at that. So we look at time form.
Just on time form, it says a fast pace. So if we get some pace, I don't know if I think the one would get this far back. I think, because I do think, again, if you watch the replay, and I welcome everyone too, we can't show it on here. The one showed a bunch of speed. So the one could break. It's not like this is a horse that just goes dead to last, but So I didn't understand the trip I don't know if it was the ride or the trip or the horse, but I think the horse does have enough speed to maybe not get shuffled too far back and could break a little bit, but we'll see.
And Tyler Pete is riding very, very. I mean, he always rides well, but I mean, he is really riding very well at this time. So I would, if I were playing that horse, I'd be comforted by that fact. I'd be expecting him to get the right trip.
Excellent. All right, so you have the 4 First Resort next. Another one who, I mean, these are good horses. You never know until they all looked pretty good on debut for the most part. So this is yours, First Resort, Owen Hardy, Flavian Pratt, a Godolphin. So that's right up your wheelhouse there. What do you like about this one? You like this one to contend with say Touchy, or do you just think this one you're not sure, but you like in the mix?
Well, in my grid, he'll be a B.
Yep.
Notice I didn't say anything after that because we know it's an ABC grid.
Yes, we don't do that.
I was really down to the 4. I think there are 4 horses to use in this race, and I believe they are the 1, 4, 5, and 9. And I really think that's it. So I was down to the 4 and 9. They both won on debut. Probably the 4 is a little better post. It's an Uncle Mo. He's gonna, the 4's going up going up a furlong as well. So with Uncle Mo out of a street boss mare, that's not going to be an issue. Not that it will be for the 9 either. So I was down to the 4 and 9, and I just went with the 4. But I would probably use the 4 as a B, and the 9 will be a B or C depending on how the rest of the grid looks.
Do you have any expectation on what the dirt track will be like on Saturday? What do you think this late in the day?
Let's see. This is race. I would say it'll either be good or fast by this late in the day.
Because this one did win, at least if it does rain for some reason, or if the weather changes. This one did win on debut on a muddy track with a nice buyer. So,
and remember, they announced today at the end of the races that they weren't running tomorrow. So that track's sealed.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure, I don't think there's training on it tomorrow. I'm not positive of that, but I thought I might have read that somewhere. So, and even if there is, a sealed, they'll seal it right back up. If there is training, they'll seal it back up.
Yeah, for sure.
It's supposed to get a lot of rain during the day. So, and then Saturday weather up there is going to be ideal, 80 and sunny. It's going to be a spectacular day. So, they harrow it Saturday morning probably and let it dry out. So I think it would be good at worst, and I wouldn't be shocked if it were fast.
Thank you, Jim. Jim says, correct, Paul. No training on track tomorrow. So
Jim's the man.
It's good to know. So we'll hit real quick one last horse, and then we'll move on. Keep It Easy.
Yes.
Keep It Easy is one of those that it's tough because the debut was garbage for the most part, like sometimes a debut is. And then the second race, it's so hard to figure sometimes with these young horses. I mean, it's a $435,000 horse. Second one out, gets on the lead, 79 buyer, rolls the field, looks fantastic. I don't know. This is one. Is the first race more indicative? Is the second race more indicative? Picks up your guy, Junior. So I know you like that.
Speaking of hot, who's hotter than Junior?
Yes. And I mean, I guess the post is a little shaky.
It's not ideal, but 6, better to be out there at 6.5 than 6, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's the best buyer in the field. That's 79. So the more I listen to you, I think that horse will be a B, not a C.
Well, if you look, that debut actually came up pretty strong too. You see the debut here. Even the winner ran 5th next out, but it was in a 200. I forget which stakes it was. I was in the Bashford Manor against Politically Incorrect. But Toner came back. You got a couple winners here. Keep It Easy obviously came back and won. So maybe that debut doesn't look as bad because it turned out to be a pretty tough field too. So it's not like, oh my God, it's just garbage, and now ran a good race.
Yeah, I don't know that you can be too harsh on virtually any 2-year-old coming out of a debut, because you have no idea, on trainer intent. If we looked it up, I'm going to bet that Dale Roman's first time starters the last 5 years, He is 10 for 164, 6%.
Not so
Okay,
good.
that's just
Not
what
so
I
good.
thought. So he
Yeah.
just doesn't have them cranked up. You brought up a great point, Pete. They paid $435 for this horse. The breeding is really good. Could be some turf down the line in this
That's what I
horse's
was. Yeah, with the
future
English Channel on
by
the bottom.
Hardspun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't be concerned about the debut at all. That doesn't mean he's going to duplicate the last race.
No, but I
I
think
would think he's closer to running the last race than the debut for sure.
that's exactly what I was just going to say. And you see, real quick, and then we'll move on. The two of the last three works. You see this 47-4 on the 20th, and then a nice 59-3, second out of 39 over Saratoga here. So two really nice works over Saratoga. Since I just think that's a horse that I agree with you. I think the last race is probably going to be more indicative of his form than the debut. All right, let's move on to. We'll move on to the 9th, the Troy. This is a race. We're going to talk about it, but this is one where we assume we're going to make. What do you want to do? Do you want to make the assumption that it's coming off the turf, or what do you think we should do with the Troy here? Nope. You with me, Paul? Nope, you're on mute. Oh, Paul is on mute for a second. Let him figure that out, and then we will. Oh, there you go. Wait, let me see. I think you're back.
Yep, very nervous.
Now you're back. So I was saying, do you think? What do you think about the Troy? What do you think about the? Do you think this should be? We should talk about it as if it's a dirt race.
Yes,
we make the assumption, right? Yep.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that you heard. Where did you hear that Cogburn may be going?
Steve Bick's show today, and he apparently had either talked to or read that Clark Brewster, who is the co-owner of this horse, mentioned that they might stay. And why wouldn't they, Pete? First of all, there's 11 horses. There's 13 horses, 2 MTOs. Okay, so that takes you down to 11 after the first 2 scratches.
Yep.
But this horse, early in his career, is 5 for 8 in the exacta on dirt. Not graded stakes, but listed stakes, couple of seconds, second in the grade 3 Chick Lane at Pimlico.
Yeah.
The horse is a total rocket ship on turf. I get it, but if this horse ran in June, if they want to just get a race into him at this time of year, then I think there's as good a chance he stays in as he doesn't stay in, and he'll probably be about as big as favorite.
I would think so, right? Because just from the form and just from the name perspective, I'm assuming he's going to get bet regardless. And it's not like he doesn't, like you said, it's not like a horse that's just been on turf and you're trying to project. This is a horse that ran well, not great necessarily, like you said, but ran well on the dirt. So we see it in the past. He's got IRAD, so you're going to get the IRAD tax a little bit, and you have one of the best horses in the country. I'm assuming he's going to still be a pretty big favorite, and I think he has a good shot to win. But do you look at this race, and I guess it'll really depend on how many are left after the scratches. Do you look at this race, though, say you were playing a horizontal, this is the kind of race where maybe you could beat Cogburn because he's going to take the money. So I wouldn't necessarily, I don't think I would single Cogburn on the dirt necessarily. I would, even if I was playing like a caveman, I don't think I would single Cogburn. Whereas I think if you said you were going to single Cogburn on the turf, I wouldn't argue with you.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to go to the main track onlys because I think the majority of the body of the field will scratch. Okay, Big Invasion has never run on dirt. Dancing Buck has run on fast dirt once. I guess he's got 3 wet track. Dancing Buck does have 3 wet track starts.
So Whitty, we can start. I thought Whitty. Whitty has a nice win. It was an optional.
Whitty has a win.
40, and is 9 for 13 in the top 2 on dirt. So I thought Whitty could stay and could be tough. Outlaw Kid has been on the dirt, but I don't really like Outlaw Kid regardless of where they run. Step Forward's a weird one. Doesn't have anything on the dirt. Ran on the synth. We got Cogburn, Thin White Duke, a couple 91 buyers. on the off. Yeah. Oh wait, here we go.
Yeah.
There's somebody. Whitty's running at Colonial. Thank you, right at the
Oh, there you
wire. So
go.
we don't have to worry
Okay.
about Whitty then as well. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense. That's an easy ship over from Maryland. From Fair Hill.
Yeah. Well, let's talk real quick. So you would go with Disarmed out of the two next, I should say. You would go with Disarmed out of the two
Yeah.
MTOs.
I mean, I'd use both. I like, even though they're in routes. It looks like Disarmed has some speed. No jockey yet. Rudy Rodriguez finally got off the schneid after going like 0 for 37. He's
Yeah.
now won like 3 of his last 6 or some ridiculous number. I just think if I'm trying to beat Cogburn, if he stays in, I'm playing the ticket with the 12 and 13 and no one else. Whitty would have been a logical, as you brought up, but with Whitty out of the picture. But don't be expecting to get 10-1 on the 12 and 13, folks.
No,
you're very likely looking at second and third choice. So it's really, it's not a great, no matter how you slice it, it is not a great betting race.
No, and it's always tough. I mean, I don't think we're going to dwell on it any longer because it's always tough to know in a race that is coming off, but you don't know who's going to be in, especially with all these horses. I mean, it could get down to 4 or 5, and then the 12 and the 13 are going to be very short. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll move on from this one. I say to everyone, just check the scratches and see where it shakes out after the scratches. We don't even know if Cogburn's going to go, and if Cogburn doesn't go, then it maybe opens it up. And it's a pretty much more wide open race from that perspective. All right, let's go to the 10th. The 10th, the Fourstar Dave. It's a 500,000 a mile on the inner turf. And this is one that we mentioned earlier is moving to Sunday. And as you can see on the screen, we started with a field of 7, but Master of the Seas, unfortunately, came off with an injured foot. I saw, right? I think it was a foot problem.
That is a major scratch in this race.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully it's not I didn't see I don't know if you saw, if it was a long-term, if the prognosis was long-term or if it was, hopefully not, because that's a horse we really would love to see back at the Breeders' Cup again down the road. So,
and that certainly was the plan. But that's a big scratch in this race.
So we have Ottoman Fleet.
There is another Godolphin in there with Ottoman Fleet.
Yes,
but Spackler is really good, isn't he?
He is. Let's talk Ottoman Fleet real quick, and then I had a couple thoughts on Carl Spackler that we can get to. I mean, Ottoman Fleet. Is there really a ton to say about him? I mean, he's Appleby, he's Godolphin, he's got Pratt. He's come over here. The first race over, he lost, barely. Then he switches to Pratt, and then he has two pretty impressive wins in the Arlington and in the Wise Dan. There's not really anything to knock. I mean, he's tactical. He went 2 and 3 back. He closed. Last time he inherited the lead and said, you know what, I'm better than these horses. I'm just going to go. So he's pretty versatile. I don't know. Anything else? Any knocks on the horse? Or do you just think he's a must-use for sure?
No, I think he could be pretty effective at a mile, to be honest with you.
Oh, that's the only thing. He's cutting. He's never. If you look back here, I'm glad you mentioned that. He's never gone shorter. So he's gone a mile and a 16th in the last 2. Now we're going the mile. But again, because he's tactical, I don't see why that would be an issue.
Yeah, and Spackler is kind of tactical. Tyler had him second. I read, took it to him last time with Talk of the Nation, and did a very good job. Spackler had all he could do to run him down. Yeah, that was a short field, and very moderate. 24, 48. Just continuous 24-second quarters. But that shows he can be tactical. But I got a feeling, even on the cutback, I think Pratt's going to have this horse pretty close early, Pete.
Well, that's the thing. They're going to both be. They sort of potentially like a relatively similar trip potentially. So they're going to be sitting off. Let's look at. I didn't bring up the time form. I apologize. Let's do that real quick. So right now you see Strong Quality, who we know is just a go horse. That horse goes. It's going to be from the rail, so there should be no trouble going. That horse, I mean, that's it. That's his game. If he has any shot of winning, he's going to go. So if you look at him, and he hasn't not held in races. So I think he's formidable speed. I don't think he's like garbage speed that's just going to be easy to take over. But doesn't it set up for Strong Quality goes? And you could figure that Ottoman Fleet and Carl Spackler should be sitting right in that sort of second, third spot, and then pounce and then see which one gets home best, I guess.
Yeah, the interesting horse in the race, Pete, the 7 is very good. Now, the 7, unfortunately, was very long layoff, was supposed to run in the Lure, which got the Lure was taken off the turf, not canceled, I believe. Yes, the Lure was not canceled, but taken off the turf, so they scratched. Cherie's trying to get this horse back and running. He was supposed to run at the fairgrounds back in whenever, March, April, and got hurt. The race could take it off the turf. He got hurt in his stall, so that set him back, and goes from the Lure, which was a good race, to, I think, a tougher race here. So that's a really good horse, and they're trying to get back to the Breeders' Cup Mile. That's the horse where, if everything does fall apart for any reason, I mean, that horse really will be motoring late. And, you get Irad with, interestingly, you get Irad. Was Rosario on Master of the Seas, Pete? No, Pratt. Yeah, he
no.
Go to the Equibase for a minute.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, did they have it? Oh, they take it off. Does anybody know? I don't know if anybody knows in the chat who was on Master of the Seas.
Yeah, because it's interesting that Irad ends up here and Rosario is not in the race.
Yeah, I guess
I'm guessing Rosario might have been on Master of the Seas.
My thing with More Than Looks was sort of twofold, where More Than Looks, unless something's improved, isn't very quick out of the gate. So it's going to be a little bit too far back. And if you're going to be, thank you, Rob. Rob said it was Pratt on Master of the Seas, I guess.
So they just moved.
So they moved.
Okay.
So I guess with More Than Looks, I'm looking at it going, is this a horse that, unless he's improved somehow out of the gate, he's going to be a little too far back. And now he's going to have to try and run down. He's going to have to try and run down Carl Spackler and Ottoman Fleet when they're going to get the jump and they're most likely going to get the better trip. That's tough off this kind of layoff. But if he's the one thing I do like, though, if he's one of those horses who we know there's a natural progression from 3 to 4, and he was pretty awesome. I mean, even in the loss in the Breeders' Cup Mile, I mean, he ran 6, but it was only by 2 against a monster field and was flying late after a horrible trip from way too far back. But if he just makes that natural 3 to 4 progression, he could just be better than these horses. And that'd be interesting to see. And I hope he comes back and he just really runs well. But like you said, I assume this is a springboard. I mean, you don't want to say a springboard in a grade 1, but just based on his schedule, this is almost a springboard.
Well, yeah, remember he was supposed to run in which is, I believe, the listed stakes. And Irad was on this horse last week. It's all coming back to me. Rosario was not riding this horse. They switched to Irad. I got the impression, I actually previewed this horse for last Saturday's paper. I got the impression, as you said, they thought he was a little too far back in the Breeders' Cup Mile. And you get a chance to get Irad. They were very happy to get Irad.
Well, and Irad with a closer, you're gonna like. I mean, that fits his style. So quick, sorry, go ahead.
No, so I Cherie thought the horse was not quite cranked up 100% last week, but obviously have to get him started somewhere.
Yeah.
Same deal, outside post, which it's only 7, but going a mile, that's not perfect either.
Yeah.
And now you stay in the outside post and you go into a tougher field, dealing with both Ottoman Fleet and Carl Spackler. So just it would be a surprise, but on ability, as you said, as the year goes on, This horse, this is a really good horse.
Yeah, I think he could be something. Real quick, right at the wire, asked if you could see Carl Spackler and Ottoman Fleet canceling each other out. I assume that means more of in terms of, again, if they're getting sort of a similar trip. But I look at it and think maybe one gets the jump or they both go together and you potentially could just see a duel down the lane is the way I look at it. I don't know if one's going to have an advantage, but I think they'll both move at relatively similar times. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that.
Yeah, I think if you're thinking, well, maybe they can both get caught from behind, wouldn't there be, ironically, a better chance of that happening without strong quality? Because I think they just kind of get to sit off of strong quality and then decide when they want to go, as opposed to just out there winging it themselves, right?
Yeah.
So is that possible? Yes, it's certainly possible, but if you're going to come from behind and get both of these horses, Ottoman Fleet and Carl Spackler, then we want to get some Breeders' Cup Future money on you in some ways.
Yeah. If he does that, if it's more than looks, especially if he does that, then it'll be pretty impressive. All right, let's move on. We'll move to the 11th. We'll try and wrap these last two up relatively quick. The 11th, we have starter allowance 16 with a purse of 40,000, going 6 furlongs on the dirt. We have a field of 7 with the favorite, number 2, Downtown Charlie Brown, which is a very cool name. And we both are going with Downtown Charlie Brown. Oh, actually, I apologize. The favorite is the 6, Print Track, is what I meant to say, 2-1. But we are both going against the favorite with the number 2 at 3-1, Downtown Charlie Brown. What do you like about this one, Paul?
Very non-creative picks in this race for me, Pete.
Me too.
Yes. A very creative
we both have
name.
the same 3. We have the same 3 horses, so neither of us are.
So you're boring too.
Yeah,
you're boring too. Look at this horse has speed, although there is speed just to the inside. No disrespect to Madison Oliver, but this is a big jockey upgrade, obviously.
Yes.
I think the horse could get the right trip. Again, the one could be problematic. And speaking of upgrades, you're going to go to Dylan Davis there. I was down to the 2 and 6. I thought the 6 ran better than it looks on paper last time, Pete, and I think the cutback is going to be good for that because I think the 6, as far as trip, gets to sit outside the 1 and 2 and kind of get the type of trip that Louis wants. Louis Sayers got off to a slow start at the meet, folks. Don't worry about looking at the 6 for 96. Louis Sayers is back. If you thought he was in a slump, the numbers backed you up. He is, trust me, he is not in a slump. He is back, and he is riding very well. They said he took a turf horse, beat a heavy favorite today, took a turf horse gate to mile and 3/8. So, so while I do think the 6 could get the right trip, I just, this 2 horse, this PA bred likes to win, 9 wins. I think he'll get a good trip. I think the 1 is a little more, quote marks, cheap speed, if you will, for this race, coming out of claimant races. So even if he goes, I think Tyler can kind of follow him around. And then, we'll see what type of trip the 6 gets. The 6 is a speed horse as well, but cutting back, the 6 might be a little more rateable.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I actually thought the 2 as well. So part of what I liked was I agree with everything you said, but I thought at least the 2 has shown the ability to sit off and pass horses a bit. You're hoping with the 6 has sat off a bit, but is mostly a speed, but has actually sat off and won races. And so I think, and the 6, if you can see there, was entered tomorrow, but obviously since tomorrow's races are canceled, I assume this horse will be going on Saturday. But yeah, I think the question would be just, does anyone work out a trip and not get mixed up in any sort of speed problem? Because me and you, we both like 1-2-6, and 1-2-6 presumably seem to be the 3 speed horses. And that's when I showed it before, but Time Form has the 1-2-6 going. So if they get a little weird and they get a little wild and they start going a little too quick, then it maybe sets it up for somebody else. But my assumption is, I think what you're thinking is a couple of these horses have shown an ability to sit off. Maybe they work out a trip. They don't get mixed up in some sort of speed duel. And then they, you could see whoever gets that trip, I think will have the potential advantage. But I think we got the 3 horses that are going to be in the mix right at the jump. So.
Yeah. And I think, if that scenario develops, be careful of the 4. If someone's going to come from behind and pick all 3 of them up, you got Pratt on the 4. You have a horse who's closed from 5th at 6.5 furlongs.
Yeah, beat
gets cutbacks.
Beat the 1, 2 back closing.
3 back. Amundsen came back and won out of that race. That race last time, Reddington was just outstanding. Got a great trip on the outside and blew them away. So, yeah, I think if that is a legitimate concern, what you just brought up, Pete, that they all kind of, if it's a 3-way battle, either one of them's going to emerge or it's going to be a battle of attrition. So,
yeah.
I think the more I look at it, you've told me that I need to keep Dot Staller in my grid. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely, there was nothing in this race that made me say, yeah, this is a horse that I'm going to lean on if I'm playing a horizontal play. I think this was a little bit of a spread. Unfortunately, though, you're spreading most likely, not spreading too deep, but you're including most of the lower priced horses, so it's not ideal.
Yeah.
But this is one of those races I just want to get through because I don't have a really strong opinion about any of them at this point. Anybody else you want to hit here?
Yeah.
You good to move on?
No, I think I looked at the 3. I looked at the 3 a little bit. As you were talking about that scenario, I was looking for horses who maybe could, come from 4th or 5th or maybe even 6th. And I think the 4, pretty clearly, I think the 4 is the one. So I'm certainly not going to go beyond 4 deep in a 7. And if you're playing a caveman and you go 4 deep, that's a problem. Not saying I won't do it, Pete, but it's definitely a problem.
Oh, I've done it many times and deeper on some occasions. So I'm not immune to it by any stretch. All right, so we'll hit the 12th. The 12th is another one that's tough to talk about. It was supposed to be 5.5 on the turf. It's the Galway Stakes, 150,000. Obviously, we're going to make the assumption that this is coming off. There's 4 MTOs, so they're most likely going to be in. We had a huge favorite, Star of Mystery, who I assume would have been a single if this stayed on for a lot of people. But we're going to look at this one as a off-the-turf race. And off the turf, you're going with the 10, Helena's Forte on top. Let me bring up the PPs. Let's talk about that one. If we could actually get the PPs to switch, scroll all the way down. What do you like about Helena's Forte? I mean, this is just a pretty classy horse.
Yeah, I mean, coming out of the victory, you saw how Emery ran.
And Emery, I was just going to say, Emery came back. Yep. That was in what was that?
I mean, the test?
The test, yeah. She ran second in the test, 2 ways and means.
And she ran really well in that race. And by the way, Mystic Lake also came back and No, he hasn't come back yet. But
she hasn't come back yet. But she won the.
He hasn't come back yet. But
but she's a great.
She ran second in that race. So
yeah.
I mean, this is a horse who's entered by Phil Bauer, saying, okay, if they come off the turf, I'm going to be pretty formidable here. I mean, this horse ran in the 8 Bells. This horse ran in the Ashland. I mean, this horse is, if this morning line at 2-1, I got to tell you, folks, if this horse if the race comes off the turf and this horse goes 2-1, go turn some cans in and bottles, okay, to put a few extra dollars.
Well,
this horse is no way can be 2-1.
And she has IRAD, so there's no this horse.
And Phil Bauer, who wins everything.
Everything.
Oh yeah, I mean. The one fuzzy I had outside of the MTOs was I'm wondering if this one
You see my picks. You see my picks off the turf. I was like, screw it. I'm just going with the one, man. What the hell?
Well, then you should. I picked her second. I thought I was crazy. So you're a little crazier. So you should talk about. I just thought she could just go to the lead, and you never know.
Well, here's my thing, and make of this what you might. But she gets claimed 3 back, and she had been pretty nondescript before that. She's running here at Fairgrounds and was garbage back there. I mean, hadn't been within 10 lengths of a horse. Goes to the maiden claiming 30, runs 4th, gets claimed, comes to Linda Rice, and then wins by 32 and 7 with a 73 and an 83 buyer. And, basically the time form backs up both of those. So make with that what you will. Linda Rice, move this horse up in whatever way that happens. This horse is on the rail. I guess it depends how many are left to see if, we'll see what the rest of the field looks like. But I feel like if this horse just goes, because this horse was going to be questionable on the turf, but now that you're back on the dirt, I don't know, man. I'm looking at it going, why not? But you're not getting anywhere near 30-1, obviously.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, keep in mind, that's a turf morning line, folks. Yeah. But the thing about this horse, Pete, is, okay, the 32 lengths, that's a one-off in the mud. We get it. But she came back and won by 7.5 on a fast track.
And it was,
this is a
and wasn't the favorite, was actually third
wasn't
choice,
the favorite.
So it wasn't like just laid over the field. I mean, I'm not saying it was, wasn't the Breeders' Cup.
This is a listed. This isn't a graded stakes, folks. I just want to see what one of these horses came back.
Which one out of the last one, or the?
I'm not sure. Hold on. Oh, no, a bunch of them came back already. None of them did anything as far as finishing, but, all their buyers are down just a little bit. But anyway, look, this horse is going to be probably closer to 10-1, would you say, Pete, than 30?
I mean, I guess it depends on how many stay in. But I mean, so this horse could just take money just from the 32 and the 7 on the last 2 wins, and you're like, hey, why not this horse? So I don't know.
Yeah, so I think I thought, Pete, that was the logical non-MTO horse in the race.
Well, you have the 3. You have Pipsy even off the turf. You like Pipsy? Was that
no,
correct?
I should have 10. Yeah, no, it should have been 10-1-13.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was probably a typo on my part. Yes, that makes a little more sense. 10-1.
I had Pipsy 3rd on turf.
Yes, got you.
So,
all right, that has been corrected. So that makes a hell of a lot more sense. So you have She's Always Rosie instead. Another one from Linda Rice. Oh, that's just weird though, because you figure the one's going to go, and now you got the Linda Rice horse with Kendrick all the way on the outside, who's a speed horse. So this one you figure's got to go, right?
You know what I'm trying to figure out, Pete? It doesn't make any sense.
What?
And I've ranted about coupled entries.
Why this one?
This horse has this. Well, the 1 and the 13 are both trained by Linda and have the same ownership.
Oh,
I know why. Stakes race.
Yes. I didn't even think of that.
These two horses would be coupled if this were a non-stakes race.
Non-stakes. So I wonder if they both.
Now that we've figured that out,
I wonder if they both go. Still, that would be the question.
I wouldn't be. I mean, Kendrick is not rating from the 13, is he?
No, I meant go. Sorry, I meant actually run, not go. I think they both go, but I wonder if they both run. Maybe the idea was one will run and one not. So I guess we'll keep an eye on that for scratches.
Well,
I mean, this is one of those
same ownership, Pete. She might just be unless she thinks they could cost each other. She might just be thinking, I got 2 chances to win this instead of 1.
That's true. That is very true. I'm trying to think. Is there anybody else we want to? The 11. I thought the 11 from an MTO standpoint, the 11 definitely seems like a horse that should be in the mix. Neither one of us have the horse, but it's a Pletcher. It's got Johnny V. it looks tactical. So, and it's obviously it's a dirt horse because it's MTO, but looks tactical enough. So if there is the speed from the outside and the speed from the inside, this one looks like could get a decent run.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and yep, and it's Pletcher and Johnny V. So again, that 9-2 you're looking at. This horses never run on turf. Although that's an MTO. That is actually that morning line is legit because this is an MTO. But I would guess I wouldn't be expecting 9-2 on Pletcher, especially as you said. If we lose 3 or 4 out of the body of the race before the MTOs, now we're down to 7 or 8. But yeah, I think it's the MTOs and the one is my quote price horse. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I think watch the board there, watch the scratches, obviously, and we'll see where it ends up. We'll zip through real quick. We'll get through our best bets, and then we'll go to the rant. Yours was both in race 8. I was going to bring it up on the screen just so people could see who you're looking at. So in the Saratoga Special, I didn't put the dollar amounts, but Paul had a win bet on the number 5 Touchy and an exacta key box Touchy number 5 with the 1 Smoking Wicked, the 4 First Resort, and the 9 Keep It Easy. I guess that's I don't know if you have to explain it too much. It's pretty straightforward. You like Touchy, and there's a couple horses you like to go with it.
I don't think I'm curious to see what you think, Pete. I don't think anyone is going to be a prohibitive favorite in this race.
No, I think so. I mean, I think Touchy will be the favorite, I think, just based on that last race and who's come out of it. But we didn't talk really about Showcase. I thought Showcase ran really well last time. The 1 looks pretty good. The 4 looks good that we talked about. Right. Keep It Easy looks good. Now, I think the odds should be pretty spread out.
Yeah, so I mean, like it said, right now you have Touchy is the morning line favorite, but $2 or 2 points, if you will, away from the second choice.
Yeah,
right. And I just think, and I hadn't even looked at the 2, but that's a good point. That I think that horse will come down a few ticks with Irad and Pletcher. Right?
Pletcher, yep.
I think he could have like 5 horses in that 2-1, 5-2, up to 5-1, 9-2 range.
So. I think so.
So that I don't want to bet Touchy at 8-5, but I think he might hold that 5-2, and I would say he might be worth it at 5-2. So plus I wanted to, and I have the unenviable task of doing these Saratoga power picks and trying to wade through this mess.
Oh, great! Good for you.
I really wanted to, and I'm probably going to do the same over there. Is try to keep them to the races on the surfaces I know they're going to be run on right now, which means the dirt races.
Yeah.
So that's why I landed on this race.
So I'll go to mine, which is funny because I'm going to stick with the race. So my 2 best bets, and mine, they weren't great best bets because with some of the scratches and some of the changes, I was sort of all over the place, and I didn't really have a ton of confidence until we see all the scratches. So one of mine was actually in this race. I actually just went with a win bet on the 1. I like Smoking Wicked. I like that last race. I do really like Touchy. I would probably play an exacta 1-5 with you if I was to play it that way. But I was just going to go with the 1, see if we can improve a little bit, get a better trip, maybe not drop too far back. And then this was a sort of a throwaway, but I went with Legend of Time in the first, but I probably wouldn't use that as a best bet normally, because I assume now he's going to be a pretty big chalk. But that was what I had. I didn't really love anything else, so I'll stick with those for the time being. But yeah, everybody, it's going to be a weird weekend at Saratoga, so the races are going to be weird. You're going to have these on Saturday. There's going to be a ton of scratches to keep an eye on, so you'll have to, adjust accordingly as you go. But we'll do quick, and then we'll wrap this show up. As always, what we like to do is we like to do this, Paul's Rant of the Week, one of everyone America's favorite segment. So I will get my and leave it to you is what I meant to say.
Can you hear me, Pete? I can't hear you all of a sudden.
I can. I'm off the screen, so you won't be able to hear.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, so this is more, and I know we have a lot of people who listen to all the shows, watch all the shows. So if you were on Monday night with Howard and me, I'll apologize, but I just want people to understand. I mean, canceling races at Saratoga was once an unheard of situation. Um, I remember a hurricane once they canceled on Sunday. Uh, they have canceled. I remember one heat cancellation. But based on what happened last Saturday, and based on now what's happened tomorrow, and moving races, as I mentioned on the show Monday night, I just strongly advise you don't get too worked up about it, because there is nothing. This is the new normal. Safety is of paramount concern. Uh, I was 30 feet away when Maple Leaf Mel broke down last year. I know it was on dirt. I get it, and we're talking about turf races. But my point is, a lot of research has been done. I wrote about it on the Sunday Saratoga Special. Dr. Scott Palmer, whom I spoke with, was on with Steve Bick for an hour on Monday. They are just going to do everything they can. And where in the past they might have erred on the side of being a little aggressive, they are absolutely going to err on the side of caution now. You might not like it as a bettor. I'm not telling you to like it. I strongly recommend you accept it, because this is where we are. They're using real data now. I'm not going to get into it again, but moisture content, consistency of the track, how moist it is in one spot versus another, and what the difference is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Look at it. They have to do everything they can to mitigate the risk, and that's what they're doing. And it sucks. It sucks if you were heading up. A friend of mine was heading up there tomorrow. Now there's no racing tomorrow. Okay, if it were last Friday, I'd have been pissing and moaning about it just like the rest of you. But I'm starting to get less and less worked up about it, because there is nothing we can do. And if you just keep in mind that this is the new normal, and this is what we're going to have to deal with. And if the trade-off is that right now the fatality rate in America is lower than places like Australia and Europe, then I think we have to accept that. So don't get worked up. There's plenty of races to bet. There's 18 more days of Saratoga after we lose tomorrow. So plenty of opportunities.
Yes, very well said. And I agree with you there. We did have a Paul.
It's a good question, yep. Jeff. Yeah, that is a good question. I don't know the answer. The only thing I would say is Colonial did it well in advance. I don't know if they have the option of doing that. I do know that, and I don't know what they have for stakes tomorrow. I know that they can only move stakes races with the approval of the commission, so that's one factor. I don't know. I guess they would try to make that card up piecemeal. One or two races at a time over the next. Fortunately, folks, we're only at the halfway point, right? I think they are committed, as Rob points out. I think they are committed to Monday and Tuesday being dark days. They've done that the last few years, and I think if they were to run on a Monday or Tuesday, Pete, it would be them saying we're going to run 2 weeks from Monday. We're gonna throw an extra card in, but I don't think they're in a position to do it on 3 days' notice. So if you're up in Saratoga, go to the museum, go to the casino. You can bet other tracks over at the harness track at the casino. There's Del Mar starts at 7:00 tomorrow night. There's plenty of things to do with your degeneracy.
Go to King's Tavern. King's Tavern.
Go to King's Tavern, Pete.
My favorite
Tell
place.
him Pete. I sent Pete a photo of King's Tavern. Go to King's Tavern and tell them Pete's okay.
There's races on a million TVs there, and they have really good food.
The best.
Go there and
go to Pinnell's. Go to Pinnell's. Go to Nove. Get some great Italian food. There's plenty to do.
Yes. Oh yeah. Hall of Fame. Take the Tom Durkin tour. That is a good
plenty
call. Thank you, Rob. Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's enough. Do you have any other thoughts on the upcoming weekend, or you any parting thoughts aside from your little rant there?
No, I think that as we talked about Sunday, you got, and then Colonial comes back on Monday and Tuesday, so you're looking at three good days of racing coming up.
And like we said,
Saturday's going to be unbelievable, right? And, the Saturday card is just fine. You get the Saratoga Special. It's not ideal with those other turf stakes, but there are 6 dirt races scheduled on Saturday. So there's plenty of ways to, if you don't want to bet those off the turf, just increase your stake in the other races. If you need any help, I can tell you how to blow money. Just send a message. And
we could spend your money as well as anybody. Don't
no
worry
rant
about
needed
that.
for that, Pete, right?
No, we could blow through cash as good as anybody on the country, man. Definitely. All right. Well, real quick, if you see on the bottom of the screen again, like I mentioned at the beginning, please hit that like button on our show, hit the notification bell, subscribe if you haven't, tell all your friends. We want as many subscribers as we can possibly get. Like I said, follow us on X too. We passed some thresholds of people on both platforms. So now we're trying to get to the next one. But for myself here, Pete Visco, my co-host Paul Halloran, thank you everyone in the chat and everyone watching for joining us for episode 366 of Picks and Ponies on the HHH Racing Podcast Network. And as we always say, hey, the little thumbs up bubble just popped up. That's always a good omen. As we always say on here, regardless of which track you're betting, what day you're betting, definitely crush those bets. Thanks, everybody. See ya.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.